then this was back in the late 70s.
Okay, roll call.
Marcia Cox.
Here.
Hal Christensen.
Here.
Sam Scarmato. Pat Rainey.
Here.
Sherry Thompson.
Here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing in remembrance of the victims in Las Vegas? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, the only item on our agenda today is to view our presentations by companies that we have invited in. We have kind of sent some guidelines, but we've got about 45 minutes to present, and then any questions we have we'll address to you at the end of the presentation, and CBIZ will be first.
I feel like I'm in a courtroom. May I approach the bench?
Well, we will ask you for a check if that's
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for allowing us to come in and present to you today, tell you a little bit about our story. But the way we really look at our clients at CBIZ is you're the ones, we work for you. You're the ones that are in charge, and we're here to really serve you and serve your needs. Ms. Thompson, again, in light of the events in Las Vegas this morning, we're saddened really to be here just down the road from Las Vegas, but happy to be here with you folks today. My name is Mike Barberio, and I'm the Vice President, and I would be the lead strategic consultant should we be fortunate enough to be chosen as the consultant for you going forward. And I've been, just a little bit of background on me, I know that you've seen our presentation, you've seen our bio, but I've been in the insurance business, the employee benefit consulting business for almost 34 years. The last almost seven of which have been with CBIZ. Prior to that, I spent about 27 years on the wholesale side, which really is kind of a unique situation because really developing products and working with insurance brokers and consultants. So rather than just be able to tell you what time it is, I can kind of tell you how the watch was actually made. So kind of a little bit of a unique perspective. Rather than me just read off people's names, I just thought I'd have my colleagues take about 30 seconds each to tell them a little bit about yourself. So Stacy, why don't you go first?
Hi, my name is Stacy Hutton. I would be the strategic account executive supporting Mike with this account. I have a 25-year plus a year experience in the Arizona market working on all large self-funded products, mostly on the employer side. I've been with CBIZ for a few years, but most of my experience is in public sector. I'm the former contracts and compliance manager with the state of Arizona, where I managed their program. And also, I was the marketing director of operations for a large health insurance trust called ASBE. So I have many years of experience in public sector and with many school districts in Arizona.
Aaron?
Hi, my name is Erin Eason. I am the National Director of Clinical Consulting with CBIZ. I'm actually based out of our Kansas City office. I have a little bit different background. I actually have a clinical background. I was an occupational therapist and then have been in the consulting world for several years and with CBIZ for the last 4. I have the opportunity to work with employers at different phases of their journey through on-site clinics, from determining if it makes any sense to implement an on-site clinic to folks like you all who've had a clinic in place for several years and are really making sure that it's functioning to its highest level of efficiency and effectiveness, meeting the needs of your people. In my client experience, I have a significant amount of public sector work from cities and counties, and then also school districts who have really unique needs to serve their people, serve them well, and ultimately serve their students, which I know is always in the foreground of what the goals of organizations are. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, I'm Margaret Latham. I would be the account manager on your account. I provide support to Stacy and to Mike and to you as well. I have 7 years of experience providing support to public and private sector clients. And I've been supporting Mike and Stacy today by driving them around. And so I'm happy to be here.
She does a lot more than that.
Straight shot.
Right?
My name is Mike Zuccarelli, National Pharmacy Practice Lead with CBIZ. Like Aaron, I have a national role, but fortunate enough to live here in the state of Arizona. I'm a pharmacist by training, and my role with the organization is to support our offices and our clients with all things pharmacy. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think you're going to hear more from Mike and Stacy and Aaron over the next 40 minutes or so. So, again, as I stated earlier, our model is really quite simple. We put our clients before anybody else's interests. That not only includes you as trustees, board members, but really the employees that work for the school district. So again, our goal is to do the best for you, and by doing that, we've been, I think, very successful in managing all of our clients, not only in the state of Arizona, but nationally, because we're across the country. We're in about 22 other states other than Arizona. So you can kind of see our model up there, and I know you've seen it. We're going to talk today about all of the things that are on this particular page, and not only the basic services that we've offered you, but also some of the enhanced services that Mike and Aaron can bring to you. But the bottom line is, it's all about you. We work for you. So here's kind of the org chart, and again, it's a little bit of a recap, and you'll see some people's names up there that unfortunately aren't able to be with us today. So you can see the team. We also have an analytics department, Cameron Dugan, we call her Cammy. She would actually be doing all of your reporting on a monthly and a quarterly basis. Account service team, you've met Stacy, you've met Margaret. We also have a great lady by the name of Angela Schlosser. Angela is really our claims or client advocate. She works with all of our clients, helping them with claims issues as they come up. Any type, and it's not just claims, any type of issue that somebody might have. Maybe they're trying to pre-cert an MRI or a CT scan, and they're having problems, and generally it's at the provider level. But again, simple call to Angela, and she can help people work through that maze. We also have a full compliance department that's headed by Karen McLeese. Karen's an ERISA attorney. She's a graduate of Duke University as well as Notre Dame. We feel Karen's really the best in the business in compliance, keeping us in compliance, which enables you to be in compliance. And again, this business in 34 years, it's getting harder rather than easier. The guy that brought me into this business back at the late 1983 said, "Hey, Mike, if you work really hard for 10 years, he said, you'll be able to come in at 10 and leave at 3. Well, guess what? He lied to me. It's getting harder, not getting easier. But again, we've got a great team on the compliance side. And then also, we have a well-being practice. And unfortunately, we're actually having a national meeting today. Couldn't get anybody here. They're all in Santa Fe, supposedly working. But we've got a nice little video that I think we're going to show you here in a few minutes that's going to talk about that practice and what they can do for you. The great thing about working at CBIZ is that we're a national firm, but we really, I think, come across and really treat our clients with the type look and feel that you would get from a local agency or a local consultant, but with large national resources to back you up. Again, in our actuarial area, we'll talk about that with Mike and with what Aaron does in our well-being team. We have a great national group of people. And we're big in the public sector space. Here's just a sampling of some of our clients. Kind of pulled some clients from Arizona, Kansas City. I think we write just about all of the school districts in that area, or most of them. And we also do a lot of other public sector work in Arizona, as well as some other states. So there's just, again, some sampling of some clients that we have. So we're really offering our services in two forms, because we kind of did some research on you and kind of looked at what you were getting currently. We really feel that we have a lot more to offer for that. And we looked at what you were getting currently. We tried to mirror that and come up with a pricing structure that is compatible with what you're currently getting. So really, under our basic services, you get our standard benefit consulting and vendor management. And we do all of the things. There's a lot of different bullets up there. I'm not going to sit here and read all of those to you. But again, you get all of these items that are up there. So strategic benefit consulting, RFP work, we feel we're really the leaders in that area, especially with Stacy's background in procurement, working for the state, being a buyer as now on this side. So we really know how to vet vendors, release RFPs, and again, that's an area I think that we excel in. Our claims reporting department, our monthly analytics, year-over-year analysis, all of the summary work that we do, that I do for you, or would be doing for you, again, I think is going to be tough to beat. And then our quarterly review will take a deep dive in your spend to see if there's some areas in which that spend can be improved upon. Because really part of our job, or a main part of our job, is to make sure that your money is spent wisely. Sometimes it's saving money. Sometimes it's just being more efficient in the way that you spend your money. Because your money, again, working with a lot of school districts, money doesn't grow on trees. At least that's what my mother used to tell me. So again, we're better stewards of your money than I think sometimes we are of our own. Again, you have a clinic already. Aaron's going to talk about that. But just in our standard reporting pack, or our standard basic service package, the clinic management, again, we would perform the same services that you're getting now with our enhanced package. And Aaron's added value, you can see what you're going to get with the enhanced package in a little bit. It's on another page. Again, compliance, really large part of benefit management now. We would provide that for you. Well-being is an area that, again, I think we excel in. And we have a really short video that, Margaret, if you can just kind of maybe click on that. And this is about 2-3 minutes long. And we're going to kind of watch that video at this time. Everybody just direct yourself to one of the screens. Hopefully. There we go. Sound.
I can do that.
No, all the way. Bottom left.
Okay. I know, I don't feel any pressure at all.
You clicked on the blue arrow.
Yes. There seems to be pictures there.
You can just close it and go click it again. It's all with the internet connection, so.
If we try it, and then if not, we'll move on and we'll come back to it at that time.
There.
According to Gallup research, the #1 rising contributor to healthcare costs and low productivity is poor employee well-being. Well-being is the way a person feels, functions, and judges life. It goes way beyond physical health that includes social well-being, community well-being, financial security, and even a person's purpose in life.
CBIS Wellbeing Solutions is a service line within CBIS ESO. and we are a national service delivered at a local level. So we help organizations to create a culture of well-being within the organization. Many employers know that they need to do a well-being program for their employees, but they're not sure where to start or how to actively engage their employees. And then we have employers that are implementing programs. You know, they think they're doing the right thing, but then when they look at their return on investment, they're not seeing much there. And then lastly, we have employers who really are kind of, as we say, doing willy-nilly programs. They're doing ad hoc programs or ad hoc strategies, and they're not truly implementing a comprehensive well-being strategy. And so we found that that's truly a differentiator between programs that are truly successful in creating a culture of well-being within the organization.
CEBA's Wellbeing Solutions addresses well-being organizations by fully acknowledging that well-being is the most important element to life. No one's going to disagree with that. We go into organizations and we build out a short-term, long-term strategy with employers. We address their needs, whether it's through a cultural needs assessment, whether it's an employee well-being interest survey. We assess their risks. We assess their priorities, their long-term goals, visions, and objectives. And what's unique about us is we just don't look at physical well-being. We take a look at all 5 of those domains. So including physical well-being, we look at the career, your career. We look at your social. We look at the community. And financial well-being is a really big piece. It is the #1 top stressor for employees in today's world. So with the roadmap in hand, CEBA's Wellbeing Solutions utilizes all the elements of behavioral economics. We address communications, your engagement strategies, how you're reaching out to people. We work with the leadership team and work on development and strategies to help leaders be leaders. And we have innovative technologies that really help us drive engagement and sustain it long term. It's not long after we implement a well-being program that our clients start to see their employees are happier, healthier, they have improved customer service and profitability.
So you would have a well-being consultant, Anna Panzarella, and again, she couldn't be with us today, who is counterpart to those ladies that just spoke. So again, get well-being consulting. I know you have a program now. We come in, we take a look at it, maybe recommend some changes, but again, we would assist you as we move along. And then finally, membership advocacy. I talked about Angela and all the things that she can do, helping members with problems with claims, and then doing that in obviously the HIPAA compliant format. So that really outlines the basic services that are included in our proposal, and I'm going to just kind of turn it over to Stacy now to talk about the Enhanced Services Program.
Thanks. So just a couple things that I wanted to add on to Mike's discussion is under your basic services, what we did was we mirrored the proposal based on what you're receiving today. And then under the enhanced services, we added pieces that we know that every one of our clients needs. And part of what I wanted to add is that in our model with our folks out of the Arizona office, which includes myself and Mike and Mr. Zuccarelli and Margaret, etc., and Anna works out of the Tucson office. So in conjunction with our Arizona employees, CBIZ is one of the firms that the national resources that are available to me, for instance, to support all my clients, these are folks that I work with all the time on all of my clients. This is not, we're not in a cog in the wheel of this huge corporate structure where I have to go through 5 different managers to get approval for somebody to fly out here if we need them to come out for a meeting. And I think that's important for you to know. Just as a former buyer in your shoes making these decisions, I know that when I was working with consulting firms, I would want to make sure I knew where my resources were. So our folks, even on the national level with your enhanced services, et cetera, and all of the other resources that we have to bring to the table at CBIZ, we can tap into those whenever we need to from our perspective. So what I wanted to spent a few minutes on was the enhanced services that are in our proposal. And these are the services that, for instance, the first item, actuarial services, you're receiving those today and you're paying separately for those services. We have an actuarial team within CBIZ, and we can provide you with those services if you choose to use our resources rather than your current vendor that you're having handle the actuarial services. We believe that that brings a lot of value, that there's a lot of cohesiveness that we can bring with our actuary doing the numbers, because we'll be the entity that will be discussing things like plan design with you. What can we give our members? How can we get the biggest bang for our buck? That way we can go to our actuary team and say, price this way, look at it from this direction. We're concerned about this risk, what's coming up in the market, etc. And along with our pharmacy consultant, Mr. Zuccarelli, I can tap into our actuarial resources and our pharmacy resources, and that cohesiveness is what we believe is important. So that's one of the areas that we included here today. Mike Zuccarelli is going to talk to you a little bit about pharmacy management, and then I'm going to have Aaron come up after that and talk to you about the clinical consulting piece.
My name is Mike Zuccarelli. Thank you for hosting us today, and thank you for allowing a portion of the time to talk about pharmacy. It's definitely something that I'm passionate in. I've started my career in the consulting arena, was a behind-the-counter pharmacist for some point, but have found that I've been able to provide a lot of value here on this end, working with self-funded plan sponsors. Prior to joining CBIZ in 2013, I was with a larger jumbo consulting firm who had a pharmacy practice as well. But what I've found most intriguing about this particular market and the market that CBIZ serves is that our clients are in an interesting conundrum. In the PBM, pharmacy benefit manager market, we think about pharmacy, it's generally not until you have about 10,000 employees or higher until you command some clout and respect in the industry. So from a PBM perspective, and when I say PBM, think OptumRx, ESI, Caremark, if those names ring a bell. So to think that a smaller entity can't get the service or the pricing that those folks offer. And then on the consulting side, are challenged finding partners that can offer an expertise to support them, puts them in a pretty big predicament. And it's a predicament that we've been able to solve for a lot of our clients, many of which school district clients. So part in jest and part in joke, but we do it seriously as we present to boards of educational institutions. It's interesting to see that savings that can be found on pharmacy shown in a way that talks about increases to teacher salaries, hiring new teachers, because that dollar amount is pretty substantial. And it's also something that can be calculated hard dollar savings. So I appreciate you allowing me to come talk a little bit about what I do. I think we were going to show a short video.
Yep.
Okay. And this will give you an idea of, it was actually one of the clients on, take a second to load, but it was one of the clients that was on the list, a county government client that we worked on. Myself and the local team just did a little quick video about the success story there to give you an idea and make this a little bit more real to you. Thank you again.
Companies are struggling with prescription benefits, specifically around drugs right now, because it's approaching 20% of their healthcare spend. The CBIZ pharmacy practice is focused on helping our clients navigate through their pharmacy benefit, how it's structured, how it's built, to be able to provide a benefit to their employees that's both competitive and sustainable.
Many of our employers in Tennessee are able to benefit from the CBIZ pharmacy consulting. And the way that they're able to benefit in the Tennessee market is our pharmacy consulting takes a different spin on the way that their benefits are handled. And usually it's all encompassed in one plan. So you have your health carrier and your pharmacy usually bundled into one. And in our market, it's very unique for us or anyone to be able to carve that piece out. And then through our services, not just carve it out, but stay with the client throughout the year. Recently, I began working with a large employer, and they had a need where they were running a $3 million deficit on an annual basis. So with this type of hole, it was one of the issues that we're not going to be able to find a solution from just one bucket. We had to pull from multiple different sources. one of the main sources, though, that we're able to achieve the huge savings to pick up from that deficit was in the pharmacy bucket.
What we found in this case is that the support the client was getting historically was either unwilling or was not armed with the expertise to look at their pharmacy benefit under a fine-tooth comb. There were areas in the contract that had been left unturned, and there were shortfalls within the current way that they were managing their drug spend. So after we worked with the client and the local consultant to identify the problem, we were able to quickly market the pharmacy portion of the benefit plan, identify the best solution to provide a benefit to this particular client as well as their employees. After selecting that vendor, we were able to quickly implement and provide support during that implementation so the client understood what this change meant to both themselves as well as their membership. And lastly, we were able to review their claims as they started to emerge in the new benefit to validate that what we had expected was actually occurring in the claims. And so far, we're tracking very well, and the client's expected to save $1 million annually this coming year.
And so with the pharmacy piece, along with other resources that we have access to through the CBIZ ESO model, we're able to really have a holistic approach to our client and be able to help them out in many ways that are really second to none in our industry.
So the last thing I'll add to that before passing it on to my colleague is that video was created about halfway through last year when we were looking at emerging claims. So this group implemented those changes in 2016. We just had their annual review with them in 2017 for last year, and we actually almost hit our number to the penny. So we can probably say that that amount that the client pushed on us to achieve, we implemented the solution before we were able to actually create that. And it was no longer fiction, but it was truly something that was able to be found by that client. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to my colleague, Aaron.
My takeaway is I need to make a video. But I'm not. So you just get me today, no video of me. But so I had the opportunity to review from your documentation some of the reports that you're currently receiving. I got to look through some of the just comments. I read some of the comments around efforts that you're kind of evaluating to determine how your health center is performing. And I think that our services very specifically address that need to be able to, from a third-party and quantitative approach to determining whether the health center is doing what you hope for it to do. So if I were to begin to work with you, my first step in that process would be to sort of do a, for lack of a better word, a report card on your health center. So starting at the building blocks of your partnership with Cerner, look at your agreement to determine what is supposed to be being offered. True that up to what's operationally occurring within the health center. Look at your reporting from a capacity standpoint, from a utilization standpoint, from a financial standpoint, doing invoice review, truing that up to the actual services that are being provided, and then looping that back around to a service agreement to really just establish how is the health center performing. And then on the cultural side of it, understanding what your goals are and were for the health center to determine if how it's performing aligns to what you expected it to do. Because at any point in time, when you're investing a significant amount of money, and anytime you do something like a health center and partner with a company like Cerner, I know you're investing a significant amount of money in that. And so you need to be able to, I think, identify what's working well, where the opportunity is, and make shifts in order to kind of close the gaps where those opportunities exist. And so I do that with clients, both that I've implemented with. It's something that we do on an annual basis. But oftentimes I come in and work with clients who've implemented independently or maybe with a different consultant and really try to close that loop and understand if your investment is paying off in terms of what you expect it to do. In addition to that, the day-to-day operations, the liaison work, I work with clinic vendors nationally. I work with pretty much every national vendor in some regard, whether it's through interactions through RFP processes or ongoing ongoing relationships that I have with my employers that have those vendors as partners. So I have the opportunity to learn best practice, best opportunities from a variety of vendor partners so that you get the, I think, benefit of what's working in other organizations well or with other vendors well and wrapping that into your health center. In addition to that, we augment. So your vendor should be providing marketing, should be providing recommendations on strategy, the well-being video that you saw. You know, the on-site clinic space is well-being, and it should attack all 5 pillars that Angie talked about. Often the focus trends towards that physical, but I think with a consultant that works broadly, we're able to really identify where the opportunity exists and draw that out from those vendors. Cerner's has a robust service platform, but oftentimes, especially as time goes on, health centers start to stagnate, and they start to just work the way they've always worked. And so it's really our role as the consultant to ensure that that doesn't happen. Just like our health evolves, your health center should evolve as well. And so it's our job, I feel, to push vendor partners to make recommendations to you all that you can then determine if it's going to work with your population and then implement going forward. I mentioned an invoice review. On a monthly basis for all of my clients, I review invoices to ensure that there's accuracy in billing, that it's consistent with any requirements that were laid out in the service agreement. And in that process, I often find errors. I don't know if that's been your experience, but I often find errors and have saved clients. I have one large client that I saved over $100,000 identifying an error in their invoicing. So, you know, our services really are in place to ultimately lead to a more efficient, effective operations that, if done properly, should lead to better financial outcomes, assuming that's a goal.
Thanks, Aaron.
Great, thank you.
So the last item on this page is the enrollment system and with the EDI file feeds, etc. And the reason why this was included on this page is, again, in the proposal, this was something that was outlined that it would be paid for separately, not part of the overall consulting services. So we included it as an enhanced service. Just so you know, part of what I didn't get at earlier when I was introducing myself, I also have a technical background. So I worked in product development for ERP systems for an entity that sold software to school districts. So I was the product development product manager, and I sold full ERP system software to school districts. And so I have about 15 years of experience directly working with technology, both on the finance, payroll, HR, and benefits side with public sector entities. So part of what my role will be is to sit down with you and the folks at the district office that handle the benefits and the payroll, et cetera, and talk about what your requirements are. Because before you can put a price to a tool, we got to understand what you need. Do you want something that has a mobile app included with it? Do you want a portal? Do you want employees to access it? Are you going to manage it internally? There's systems out there that you can get that somebody can come in and say, we'll give you this system for free, or it's included in our pricing. We have those systems too. We have vendors that we have access to. So we're going to find the right tool that fits for your needs, not just deliver something that may or may not work. Just one thing that I would like to advise you of going forward, evaluating these types of systems, is that people will offer you systems for free, but that they're getting some kind of compensation on the back end from the enrollment vendors, etc. So just our pricing and everything that CBIS has proposed for you is fully transparent. None of our pricing is built in. We're not getting a back end deal from any of the vendors. We don't bid with commissions in these kinds of proposals at all. There's no other type of referral fees or anything you call it. It's not in there. So just wanted to let you know that. So we would sit down, talk about your requirements, look at what payroll systems you have in place, make sure that those systems are going to talk to each other, they're going to integrate. All of those things will be part of the process of delivering your system tool. So the next page that I want to talk about is the transition plan. So we put together this sample transition plan. And of course, this is all based on at what speed you want to move and who we're working with and what kind of things you want us to look at. But what we thought is that right upon award, we wouldn't wait until January 1 to start working. So we'll work for free for a couple months, right? Because this contract is due to be awarded effective January 1. So we're saying we're going to start work right away. We know we're not getting paid for that first few months. We're fine with that. We want to review all of your current contracts. There's a lot of data that we want to analyze. We need to get a little bit educated and then come in and meet with your people and figure out what we'll bring recommendations to the table, the red flags that we see, and then we'll get to work and we'll start looking at what direction you want us to go into, what things are you interested in us seeing, etc. And hopefully those two lists come in the middle, right? That we bring in recommendations to you with the things that you're already seeing that you want done. So we'll start working on that right away, and then we will go into additional recommendations because then we'll be working together longer. We'll look at contracts early next year for what ones you want to go out to bid, which ones you want to renew, where there's issues at, etc. But every time we meet with you, we're going to bring recommendations and we're going to bring a status. Here's where we're at. This is where CBIZ differs because this is where we bring our full transparency. Our job is to come to you and explain to you, here's where all the money is, here's everything we're working on for you, excuse me, and here's the status of all of those projects. And if you don't know the details between all of that, then you need a team like CBIZ behind you to help you understand all of those things. The last thing that I wanted to go over is this last sheet that I passed out to you. It's our pricing. Excuse me. We have updated this pricing a little bit just to make it a little bit more understandable. So our basic services, the price for that is at the top. That's the slide where it said our basic services. That all of those items are included in that one fee. And that's it. That's one flat fee. And then in addition to that, if you wanted to purchase our actuarial services, our typical actuarial services are listed here in addition to your GASB reporting, and those are two separate prices. You can purchase both of those things through us. You're paying for both of those things separately today. So you're paying one price for your actuarial services, you're paying another price for your GASB reporting through another vendor. And then, of course, we have our clinical consulting proposal that was in the enhanced services, our pharmacy benefit management. Excuse me, that was not in your bid document at all, the pharmacy piece. Having a Pharm D be able to go in and look at your pharmacy spending, you saw in the video the savings that you can achieve from that. So that's a piece that we wanted to put in here. Also, the enrollment systems. We would have to understand what kind of system you want, what you want our involvement to be, and all of that in order to give you a quote on those services and figure out a tool that would be good for you. We have tools that are very inexpensive. Some are more expensive. It depends on what you need. And then CBIZ just, in general, has other services that we could offer you if you were looking for those services in the future. Okay? So we just wanted to make sure that this pricing was laid out a little bit differently from our original proposal. And then also on the second page, we actually have provided performance guarantees. Our performance guarantees are actually monthly. So any 1 month that you feel you're not satisfied with our services, you don't pay us for that percentage based on each of the guarantees that are listed. So I think that that's all we have for our presentation, and I think that leaves us a little bit of time for questions.
Any questions we want to address?
Mike, that you said that one client saved $1 million a year. How big of a
client was that?
I can give you a drug spend. So they spent about $4 million in drug. So that million was about a quarter, or 25%.
Okay. I think, I recall, I believe they had about 2,000 employees. So you can cut that, by 75% or so of the population, roughly working with that.
That's a great question. As I sat down, I probably should have put the million into perspective, so thank you for asking that.
And again, in reviewing what you currently have, I think that was a weaker PBM, just to set expectation. That was a weaker PBM vendor than you have. You have a pretty good vendor now. We think you can do better.
Other questions?
No.
John?
On the additional enhanced services, is that an all or nothing, or is that something?
A la carte.
Pick and choose? All
A la carte.
Cool.
I have a question. Obviously, because the amount of time that you've been in business, you've had some opportunities to do transitions from one consultant to another with districts, public entities. We've had the same vendor or consultant for over 30 years. So there's a little trepidation on, transition. So kind of walk me through that, how you're going to make sure that our, staff in our district and whatnot are going to feel comfortable in your communication with them. And
Yeah, I think Stacy and I have that together, but it's all about communication. It's all about setting goals. It's all about reviewing what you currently have. Again, coming out, not waiting till January 1. Coming out, sitting down with your folks, talking to them, learning more about you. We try to learn as much as we can, reading all of the trust meetings and reading all the documents.
Are you reading meeting notes?
Yeah, I think the better thing to do, though, once we're awarded the business, hopefully, is to come out, sit down with your people, and learn more about them. We'll learn what was working, what's not working. And again, one of the references that we provided you, we took that over from a larger national consultant that we've been with for a long time, and it's the City of Surprise was one of them. Call them again, and if you have called them, and ask Mark Schott out there how the transition went, and he'll tell you, hopefully.
And on your attorney that you have on staff, that's an ERISA attorney. She I think is an ERISA attorney. So the things that we have experienced in the last year, because the EBT has only had an attorney available to us, not the district attorney, but for about a year, not quite a year. ERISA guidelines, trust documentation review, actually we're doing, helping us to rewrite our trust document. Are those the types of things that the attorney would be doing for us?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, Ms. Cox. We can't act as your legal advisors per se, but one of the things that we can do is really write, again, with Stacy and my expertise, is to help you write these trust documents and get them ready for your attorney to review. I mean, we don't provide the actual replacement, actual legal services. That would really be a conflict of interest as well. Did that answer your question?
It does. Thanks. And then on your taxes and that, do you do the 5,500s if we're having you do that?
Sure.
Okay.
We have a person that does the 5,500. That would be included in our services, basic services.
Okay.
Mike, if we selected CBIZ and just went with, say, the standard basic proposal, then the other enhanced services, we could add them at any time. How long would these fees stay?
Absolutely. Those fees are good for 5 years.
Okay. Thanks.
No escalator.
I had one question between the basic and enhanced services when you talk about being the health and wellness center liaison. Under basic services, it says it will continually update performance concerns, recommendations, and statuses of initiatives. So what further piece would you include in the consultant? on the enhanced side?
So essentially, the way that the model is under the basic service, I would act as your clinic liaison with Cerner, and I would be able to tap into Erin and ask her questions, et cetera, et cetera. And then under the enhanced services are the things that Erin talked about with the feasibility, the invoicing review, all of that. So pretty much today what you're getting is the basic services where someone is taking information from the board, going to the clinic, reviewing the contract, negotiating that for you, making sure the clinic is overall, the board gets their questions answered. All of those kinds of services would be in our basic services, but her expertise with kind of auditing it, doing it more of a feasibility study, working directly with the operations of the clinic, et cetera, would be the enhanced. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good question. Again, I just want to comment, I think, we're not, and I know you know this already, but we're not here to upsell anybody on anything. That $17,000 for Erin's expertise would probably be amongst the best $17,000 the district spends every year. It's my opinion.
And have you ever gone into a situation where you're working with, because I think you have a number of on-site, near-site clinics that you work with, where you've made recommendations to change it or enhance it or do away with it? I mean, is it all kind of all across the board?
It's across the board. So, I mean, I have a client right now that is out to RFP for a transition. So I, with my team and I wrote their RFP, are evaluating what potentially will be a transition for them. I've transitioned, worked with transition clients, certainly made recommendations. That's something I think the approach that our team takes is a much more strategic approach from the standpoint of certainly working in partnership with a clinic vendor, but also driving the design of how the health center should work with them. So really becoming almost like a triangle partnership to help enhance services. But absolutely, and that's really, so our services, if you were to move forward with our services, if you made the decision that after an analysis that you feel like it's time to potentially evaluate if there are other clinic partners that you feel would be a better fit for your organization, we would write that RFP, we would do the analysis and the contract negotiations. That's part of our services. When we do contract negotiations, we build in financial caps when we can to protect you from escalating costs that are theoretically unforeseen. We see forward knowing how often those work, and we protect them there. We write performance guarantees and ensure that they're being evaluated and determined if those are being met consistently. That's another place where we've seen our organizations that we work with see savings. So we're really kind of making sure that those who service you are truly servicing you, and you're not just fitting into what they think should be working. So often that isn't what is working or what would work.
Can I make one quick comment?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of questions about the basic versus enhanced service, and I do want to make one comment with respect to pharmacy. So during this transition period, if we were so fortunate to win your business and you decided to award just the basic services from a pharmacy perspective, I'm going to be involved during that review. So that initial review and being able to see your current contracts, see your current utilization, that's part of the core services. The reason we proposed the way we did is that if we did find the opportunity or believe that there is additional opportunity, we could go down that path at this juncture versus charge you for something that may not have value. As Mike mentioned, from what we researched, you are in a decent position today with your current vendor, but we do believe that there's potentially some other options for you as well.
And your rates are guaranteed for how long?
It's for the entire term of the agreement. It's on the top of the pricing page.
Right.
It just says for the entire term. The RFP said 2 years and then renewable for 2 years. So.
Oh, I said 5. I thought it was renewable for 3.
Yeah.
Mike, can you, I know you have a pretty extensive list of existing clients. Could you, how many have like just standard services as opposed to enhanced?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And again, let's touch on the, everybody, Mike's going to help, everybody. But when some don't have clinics, some do. Erin works with a lot of clients, school districts that have clinics. The way your actuarial is set up right now is really unusual, where the current consultant, and he probably didn't have the staff to do it, but you're using outside vendors for that. So that really would be, usually the RFP would have that requirement in there for that. So in our mind, we don't really consider that enhanced services, but we propose it this way because it's something you currently don't have, and you're paying outside vendors to do that work. So I can't give you an answer as far as how many have it or not, because again, it's your situation. Every situation is unique, and this is This is a different.
I was just curious on average of.
Most of them would have the equivalent of the enhanced services.
Okay. Yeah, that's.
And I can speak from a national perspective to touch all of our offices. Most of our self-funded clients, most of them, if not all, have actuarial services. And I would say the vast majority, we engage in pharmacy support as well.
Okay. Thanks.
And I would just say clinic is probably the exception there, since it's not as standard for organizations to have on-site health. We are almost always an enhanced service.
And so if we chose you, you would identify what we are currently paying for that would be redundant, if you will, of what you would be doing if we chose the enhanced.
Right. And this gentleman over here asked a question, too, about a la carte, because again, being a school district and you have retirees, you have the GASB 45 that's being done right now. That's done by a separate actuary than Gilsbar's actuary. Again, we have no idea what that cost is, and again, we'd like to do that work as well. But that's kind of over here. I think the regular actuarial services, we would certainly like to do that just because of the cohesiveness that Stacy touched on, and again, it's much easier to work typically with our own people, because I can call them at 7 o'clock at night in Ohio, and I don't really care.
And they'll pick up the phone.
And Dave will answer. Again, I don't really care. So.
And I would just like to add the $8,000 for those typical actuarial services, et cetera, is a really good price.
Yeah, but again, you could keep it, let Gilsbar do it. We would, certainly work with them, but it wouldn't be really our preference. But it's all about what you want to do. It's not about us.
Right. That's nice to hear.
Right?
Yes. Just from the district side of things, we are in the process of looking to transition from our current financial system software to another vendor. The vendor we're looking at is Infinite Visions or Tyler Technologies, mostly have a monopoly on the state. Is there anything that we will pick up by going that route that will help us if you are selected? Is there anything within that technology component, that software component, that will help us in anything that we do, especially in the benefits and payroll side of things?
Well,
what we currently have, and we have SunGuard now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not.
Right. So I can tell you from my experience, and I worked with 160 out of the 220 school districts in Arizona. So in my experience, that is a really good product that you're looking at moving to, but the benefits module with that is very expensive. And there are other benefits products that you can integrate that are a lot cheaper.
Now, if we had, as part of that package that they're proposing, that benefits module, though, will that definitely help us to bridge whatever it is we need to onboard here on our side to the particular vendors that we're matching up with? As far as open enrollment.
Right. That's going to be dependent on what you want that type of technology to do. I'm not trying to be evasive, but I can't blanket say, yeah, that you can buy bridge technology that's going to do everything you want it to do, because I don't know what you want it to do. That's kind of gets back to what we've put in our proposal.
So maybe Sherry and Bonnie, if you just quickly, if you want to comment there, just to kind of explain where your frustrations are or what you would like it to do ultimately to be more efficient.
Like paper? Paper?
Yeah. Well, I input all the enrollments for all the vendors. And currently, all of a sudden, I have to do the medical by itself.
And you're doing 4 or 5 different portals.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so
where we like to just do one. Like we had Gilsbar do it for a while, but then we had to change vendors in July, which added 2 new ones that don't.
Right. So I know, for instance, with that alone, Tyler is about $30,000 to $50,000 for their benefits module, depending upon all the bells and whistles that you buy. We have a product, CVIS has a product that would cost you maybe $5,000, $6,000 tops. And that's because of building the EDI files. So that's a one-time fee for those EDI files. So your ongoing cost for that tool that one of the tools I'm aware of would be about $3,000 a year, and then you have the one-time fee of the additional like $3,000 a year just to build the EDI feeds. That will get you a portal where your benefits folks can go in, enroll people in their decisions, and then it goes off to the vendors automatically. That doesn't give you employee portal access, and it doesn't give you like a mobile app or those kinds of, or a full COBRA module. It gets you enrollment and your EDI feeds. If that's all you want, then you can do that very, very affordably.
Well, we do like having the employees be able to go online.
Right.
Because they want to look at all their claims. They want to try to get a new ID card.
Are they doing that through Gilsfar right now?
Yes, all of them. Gilsfar, United Healthcare.
But they're not enrolling in core benefits.
No,
So
once
you want
I
a
set them
system,
up,
yeah.
they go in and then
Yeah.
they can look at their claims or they can request a new card. But once I get them enrolled, then they can do that after
Right.
that.
So you want employees to be able to, so there's products that are less expensive.
But then you're talking about the add-ons to that, the app, the wellness, the webinar, any, kind of enhancements to that, those would be, kind of create your own site.
It's more like if you think about it like a layered cake, like a wedding cake, right? The base is really big, and that's these larger companies that are selling you a full-blown benefits module that's going to cost, in your $30,000 to $50,000, and then you have smaller layers, and you may not need this. You may need the third tier, and the third tier can probably cost you $10,000, but do everything you need it to do. So it's more understanding that. What are your tiers look like, and are you going to get the biggest bang for your buck?
And like we said, we really need to learn more about you rather than just do a ready, fire, aim, hey, here's what you need to do kind of thing. And that's where, again, we excel, she excels. We can look at vendors. If we have our own solution, again, it's what's best for you, and we can't tell you right now. We just can't tell you.
Thomas?
Great. I think that puts us right at time
Okay.
for this
Thank you so
presentation.
much.
So thank you so much for presenting to us.
Yeah, thank you all for allowing us to come in, and hopefully, we came across as we're very passionate about our clients. We're very passionate about the work that we do for our clients. And again, we would be honored if you would select us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Did you have a chance?
Yes.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time. I know that this is an important topic for all of you, and certainly is for all of us as well. So, my name is Scott Gregory, and we're with Arthur J. Gallagher and Company. My team here will be presenting throughout as well, and we're very privileged to be here today. As you go out to bid and look at your employee benefits programs, I want us to make sure that we focus on the word benefits. Sometimes we lose cost of all that, but benefits are so important to each of us, our dependents, and those that are enrolled on the plan. But they also come at a very high premium and cost, and it's hard to control that. That's our job, that's what we're here to do, and talk about how we help our clients, and specifically how we can help you and your members on the plan. So that's our focus for today. I will be brief in our comments. I don't believe many of you probably are familiar with Arthur J. Gallagher and Company. We've not had a big presence here in Arizona until recently, but we work with a lot of school districts here. But a little bit about our company, I won't cover everything, but we are a large employer, one of the largest employer brokers, consulting firms in the United States and throughout the world, publicly traded on the stock exchange, and we are a Fortune 500 company. So we have a number of resources behind us. We do insurance, risk management, and consulting. Specifically, the team here today is here to talk about the employee benefits. There are many awards. The one that I'd like to focus most on is our Ethisphere Award. So for 6 years in a row now, Ethisphere Institute has named a number of companies, not just in the insurance world, but all industries, they're most ethical companies in the world. And 6 years in a row, Arthur J. Gallagher has been part of that. And that's a big reason of what we do and how we do our business. That's important for what we do. Some of the things that we do. So besides risk management, property casualty, all that, these are all the things that we work on the employee benefit side. So we look at it from a holistic viewpoint. So while today our focus is going to be on the health and welfare plan of what you offer, we look at many different things. So even if we're engaged with you, we're not specifically working with you, say, on the retirement plan or other things that you have available. It's important for us to look at what benefits do you have, what are you doing with those benefits, so we can figure out our piece of the puzzle on the health and welfare side, and how does that fit and tie into what your overall objectives of what you're trying to do. So they're all connected. Employees see their compensation, their direct pay, and their benefits, not just health and welfare in separate buckets. It all kind of comes together. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Adam. Adam is going to lead us through our agenda. Adam is our lead consultant for your team here today, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Scott. For me personally, that Ethisphere Award is extremely powerful. Not just personally, but professionally. And let me help you understand why. It was, I believe, December 5th, 2007. I got called in the conference room B in the far corner of health care company that I worked at the time. I was in sales. And got called in by my boss and his boss. It's, you know, I walk over there to have talk about a group that we were working on at the time. And, you know, walk in, it's a little musty, little corner conference room, you know, that's kind of out of the way. And my boss is sitting there hunched over the phone, his boss next to him, his puffy red face, you know, looking like he's having a bad day. And they called me to sit down. And then they said, you know, they started talking about a case I was working on that I pretty much buried. I buried it because there was no way. We were 7% higher than the current broker or the current carrier at the time. I gave up on it. I was like, it's not in the best interest. I mean, there's no way we're going to win this one. They said, well, we're going to figure out a way to win this one. And so we got on the phone. We sat there with a consultant at the time, and I'm just like a bystander. These two are talking it out with them. And saying, we need to win this account. What do we have to do? And they came up with a scheme to pay the consultant extra money off the books, outside of any kind of reporting scenario, as some kind of marketing fee of $100,000. And I was just, it was like, I couldn't believe this was happening right in front of my face. You have to understand why. I served 6 years in the United States Air Force. The words duty, honor, selflessness, you know, these are things that we cherish. And to see somebody taking advantage of an employer, more importantly, the employees underneath that employer that have no clue or are going to have to bear the burden of this 7% differential, so that this consultant would get $100,000 extra in compensation off to the side. I quit. 4 months later, I was gone. I was out. It's frustrating that that kind of stuff happens. And I'm not saying it's happening to you. I'm not saying it's going to happen to people you're interviewing. But it happens at so many different levels within this complicated system that you're evaluating right now, somebody to guide you through. And it was that situation that gave me the resolve to do exactly what I do today. And that is to help employers understand the system, navigate it, and make sure that there is no cockamamie scheme that is going to line somebody else's pocket at the consequence of your employees. And so that's why we're here today. And I would hope to walk you through how we intend to support you all as an employer, as a trust, and for your employees and their families. So we'll talk about some of the objectives that we hold valuable to our process for employers. And these aren't exactly be your objectives, but these are underlying things that we know that if we can get to it, and if we can help you here, that we're going to solve a lot of the problems. So we can start focusing on some of the other areas. So I want to talk about the approach that we take. It's very systematic, and it's important. It is, our principles and our values are all encompassed in this approach, and that is constant learning. We'll demonstrate some of the expertise a lot of you already read about. And then, of course, let's take it to the next level and talk a little bit about some innovations, some opportunities that are available to you all out there. So what are the objectives? The first would be, number one, we've got to figure out how to control your health spend. I don't know what your current situation is. I'm not going to promise you anything. But I will promise, other than the fact that I'm going to work with my team to help you figure out whatever way possible that we can tackle any issues you have. And we'll talk about some of the opportunities we have today. We need to manage your compliance through the whole process because it's getting more and more complicated every day. And as you all had noted in the RFP request, we have to simplify benefit administration. So we'll talk about that, some opportunities you have, as well as to, I think this one gets, this is like the unsung hero of the objectives, is these are benefits that you are paying literally millions of dollars a year for. And it's important to these employees, but oftentimes the grass is greener on the other side. People do not understand. This is very complicated. They don't know how much you pay oftentimes, and they don't really understand why, they don't appreciate it as much as you more than likely would hope they would. So we want to talk about how we can enhance your benefit brand in the eyes of your employees so that they have a high value perception of your benefit programs. So our proposed team consists of myself as a lead. I just want to kind of paint a picture as we talk about some of the objectives and some of the resources we're going to discuss. Below me will be Ben Colombo, who will all account services. John McHugh, who's here with me today, runs all analytics. Joni Thompson, who runs systems being all of the online enrollment, website, et cetera, that we have outlined in the RFP response. We have a marketing team for communications. That goes back to the benefit branding. We have Deborah Davis, who's our compliance officer. And then Lisa Weston, who's not here, but she will be on board as the wellness coordinator. So that's just in a broad sense of who's behind it. Our approach is pretty simple, and we stick to this like glue. So when we work with any client, we can't go in there and walk in and act like we know exactly what you need. And I can't sit here and tell you that this strategy or that strategy is going to be the right one. I would be extremely naive or almost borderline stupidity to even come in here and act in such a manner. So what we do is we work with our clients to take them through this process where we start by discovering. It's a very structured format by which we actually go through a very defined series of questions so we can understand the details. Probing questions, open-ended questions, things that will help us understand, get you to talk and your team to talk so that we can understand some of the issues, and drive down the path of what is really going on. We don't weigh in, we just listen, and that's important. Oftentimes, it's unfortunate, but that doesn't really happen in this industry. People just come with their next best, greatest recommendation or idea or process. I'd like to develop a process with my team that is specific to your individual district's needs and those of your employees. From there, we assess that information. We'll develop an action plan, and we're going to implement it. But we're not done there because maybe we missed something. So we have to monitor it. We have to set up clear goals of how we're going to track and assess, measure ourselves. What kind of progress points do we want to hit? And let's keep an eye on that. Let's see how things are working. It's a communication strategy, a funding strategy, whatever it is. Let's figure out how we're going to make this work and study it. And if it doesn't work, let's reevaluate it. Let's figure out what went wrong and learn from it and make it better. Again, no promises. I can only assure you that we will turn over every stone on your behalf. And one of those happens to do with compliance. And I'm going to introduce Deborah Davis to you, who will talk about some of the resources available and how we were going to support you in that area.
Well, thank you so much for letting me come talk to you today. as I'm sure you've read in the paper, Congress really loves to change the rules regarding benefits. We have a comprehensive compliance overview that is almost 70 pages talking about all the different requirements that are required for health and welfare plans. My role is to meet with clients, talk to them, to help them understand exactly how those rules apply to their plans. I have to tell you, school districts are my favorite, only because I love compliance and they have such unique issues, right? It's, well, how do we deal with our temporary employees? How do we deal with substitute teachers? What about our coaches? I assume you all have gone through the employer mandate and trying to figure out how that all applies. And what happens when you have somebody who goes from full-time to part-time and then maybe back to full-time and it goes on leaves of absence and all those kinds of things. So my job is to talk to our clients and walk them through when Mary goes from full-time to part-time, what do we do? And when John goes back and forth, how do we handle that? And then reporting has been a fun topic for the last few years. I think I was saying the codes to report on the forms in my sleep. Got a couple of elbows from my husband a few times. But I know it's something that all employers struggle with, right? Very, very challenging. And so what I do is I come out, talk to you, we walk through the rules, and then when you have follow-up questions, which always happens, then you have additional conversations about what you need to do for this specific situation. We also have a help desk, which is manned 24 hours, not 24 hours a day, we have a 24-hour turnaround, excuse me. So while I'm here talking to you guys, we have an expert back in the office handling those questions. So when an employee has a question and you go, I haven't seen that one before, I haven't seen it in a while, we have somebody who looks at the rules, makes sure we're giving a precise, exact answer. So for example, if you say, oh, we have somebody who wants to change their elections. They were maybe in family coverage, they want to switch to single coverage. Can they do that under these circumstances? That's the kind of thing. We'll research it, get back to you, tell you, yes, you can allow them to do that, or maybe not, depending on the facts. That and way too many questions. I was sharing with them Fridays seems to be when I get all our challenging questions, which does make it more interesting. Besides for that, though, we want to make sure that our clients are always aware of what's coming up, right? So when it comes to compliance, we never want anybody to be surprised. And so we have publications that go out monthly to let everybody know, here's what's in the pipeline, here's what's coming, and then of course your consulting team is going to let you know what's really relevant to you. Additionally than that, when we have topics, we have a divisional group who loves to work on publications, and so they like to interpret any possible way you might want information. So let's say the employer mandates, for example, right? We have recorded webinars. We have long articles and short articles. We have flow charts. We have pretty much any way you might possibly want that information. We have that available. And so we have a whole group that devotes all their time doing that. And then, because we're compliance geeks, we actively solicit information from our consulting teams to say, what else can we generate? For example, we heard with reporting, people were confused when they were getting those forms 1095-C. So we created employee communication materials to send out so they could understand, why am I getting this form? What am I supposed to do with it? And those types of things. And we actively solicit that from all of our clients. Let us know if there's something you wish you could have. Chances are, if we don't already have it, we are more than happy to create that for you. And then, as I did mention, we do have our in-depth compliance guide that talks about all those requirements. I don't know about you, but a lot of clients have been so focused on Affordable Care Act that kind of some of the other stuff they haven't thought about in a while. And they're wondering, gee, did we miss something? You know, we were complying with the employer mandate, we were doing ACA reporting. How are we still doing on COBRA? Our compliance, our cafeteria plan documents still up to date? Do we need those kinds of changes? And so we meet with our clients and go through them to help identify areas that might need more focus. So hopefully we'll have the opportunity to work together. Thank you.
Administration was another objective on our end. and certainly something that you all had outlined in your request for proposal. What we're proposing is an internal system that is built, managed, serviced, supported in Arizona, in our office, by Gallagher. It's a Benefits Connect system. If you read through it, it's completely customizable. That is the electronic data interfaces. It's 128-bit encrypted, fully HIPAA compliant, no paper. It'll feed to anybody that will accept it. It's going to warehouse pretty much all of your information and tie into whatever system that you're all using from a payroll perspective too. Be there as well. It's easy to use. It's customizable, and I think you will find it to be an extremely beneficial tool. And you need to understand that it's just a tool, and there's a cost obviously that was associated to it. It is part of a strategy. This strategy, by using Gallagher in this aspect, would be giving it free will to your employees. They can use it on a self-service basis at their leisure. If you prefer to subsidize the cost of this system, we could bring in an enrollment firm, and then there would be commissions on products that they sell, from worksite products like Aflac products, and those commissions could then offset the cost of this system, or for that matter, any other system that they would bring in. I say this because I'm not putting my hat just on Benefits Connect, but I do know that it's a solid solution for you if, in fact, you want a self-service system that does not require a one-on-one enrollments with every single one of your employees. Because I don't know how comfortable you would be in that scenario. If you are, then there's a couple options on the table that you can have. Using this and having it subsidized, or using whatever system the enrollment firm would use. We have our own enrollment firm in Gallagher, in Utah. It comes out here and works with all of our clients if they do want to go the route of online enrollment, year-round, guaranteed one-on-one enrollment. So you have multiple options. I just want to make sure you understand that this is not, we're not just a one-trick pony when it comes to benefit administration. But we are especially keen on the systems and the backside problems with these systems, which comes with the electronic data interfaces more often than not. Systems are presented only at open enrollment, not year-round, or if they are, the feeds are done by a HIPAA 838 file that is usually standardized and never really feeds correctly. Well, we take it very seriously when it comes to benefit administration internally and track every single enrollment feed that goes over to the carriers to ensure that it was uploaded correctly, and that it was processed correctly by the carriers, whichever one it may be, and that there are no issues of fallout, particularly with COBRA, because it tends to be an area that often gets rerouted and lost in the fray. That's the important dark side of an enrollment system. I do not know if you have one in place already or if you're looking to add one for the first time. Either way, I want to assure you that you would have no better partner in this endeavor than working with our team here in working with whatever online solution that you want to come up with. We also would use this as a crutch piece because of its central nature of actually helping enhance your benefit brand. Again, sorry if it seems like a recurring theme, but I want to make sure you understand that we do not presume that we know exactly where you failed or where you succeeded yet. That will come when we go through the blueprint process, as we call it. So you may have had success already, and what we want to do is we just want to take wherever you're at and help you get better with your brand. And that's your benefit programs and your wellness programs. So we want to probably start with a refresh. That's where our marketing team comes in. They'll develop the communication materials, the booklets, the posters, whatever it may be, whatever fits the strategy that we develop. And then we'll release it in a multifaceted marketing approach. That's a custom benefit website that has a smartphone application. It makes it very convenient for your employees. The benefit enrollment system, it's all going to tie together. Everything would be linked. And then we link to your carriers. And everything would be linked back to you as an employer so that it brands the Lake Havasu Unified School District as the champions, not Gallagher. That's our goal. We want to make you look good. By making you look good, we succeed. By helping your employees, helping them navigate the healthcare system and lower the cost, we succeed. So we have to manage this program. It's not just something we're going to throw out one day and then let it go. It's constantly figuring out how we're going to touch your employees and help them understand how to use their benefits, what their role is as a consumer to the cost of your self-funded plan. And to then, of course, obviously appreciate how much what they have, and how much, bottom line is part of their compensation package. We figure if we can understand your culture, which we work with a lot of school districts, and none two are alike, so I would never presume that you're like any of your peer district groups. Definitely understand your people, the risk you're already, and then by doing that, we can use the education and the well-being vision to really help develop the strategy and meet those objectives. It goes beyond just the employees, though. We have to work with your administration staff. So what we do is we serve as the carrier administration liaison. So any issues that you're going to have with your vendors, boom, there we are. Benefit procurement, we have the system down pat, guaranteed compliance. We've done millions of them. That's figurative. We've done quite a few. So fully compliant procurement process in-house that we abide by. We've got all the language, stay up to date, got all the Arizona revised statutes in-house, and refer to them regularly to make sure everything's compliant. So you can guarantee to have that. And then, of course, employee advocacy, they're going to have a lot of questions, so we're going to have the support line for them as well. It's going to be part of the whole strategy, along with any administration and system support. So whatever systems we put in place, whatever marketing efforts, we're going to have that whole functionality buttoned down. That was on Joni Thompson on the core team. But I think one of the biggest areas where we probably focus first would be to manage your health spend. About John McHugh, who runs our analytics, and John's going to give you an idea of kind of the level that how we look at it and where we take it.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hey. 2 slides, so you're going to make me use the clicker. So this could go anywhere. I may back on the other slide. So one of the things that we've mentioned is all of the additional services and tools and exciting things that we can bring to you and your employees. However, the one important thing that we have to realize is, a term that I like to use is, you guys have a balloon, and that balloon is shrinking. And it's just a matter of how we squeeze the balloon as to where the money goes. You have a set budget. And so it's a matter of how do we achieve the goals that you want to achieve for your members with a limited amount of resources in terms of money. That's what we're here to kind of figure out, or to help you figure out. One of the most important things is that you will have a dedicated underwriter, a dedicated technical consultant. This will be one person that is assigned to your team that will learn you. Learn the school district, learn the style, learn the goals, learn the limitations. So they're not having to relearn it every year. So if something changes, they are there to help you with that change. Whether it be a plan design, whether it be a vendor, they're there through the entire process. Okay? One of the things that Adam mentioned, and also Deborah mentioned, is surprises. The one thing you cannot afford to have in the financial realm is a surprise. So if, for example, this is an assumption on my part, if you renew in July, is that correct? Okay. The one thing you don't want us to do is come in April and say, here's your 20% increase, and have everyone looking at me like, okay, where was this 6 months ago? Okay. So that's one of the things that we will do in terms of the comprehensive actuarial services. On a monthly basis, you will know how your plan is running to the budget that you've set forth. Okay? So we will let you know if you're ahead of budget, if you're below budget, and by how much. Okay, the other key thing is if you are worse than budget, whether you want to say that's above or below, if you are worse than budget, we need to have an explanation as to why that is. Okay? Was it a large claim? Was it a catastrophic claim? Are you getting towards the end of a calendar year and everybody's running out to spend FSA money? Whatever it is, we need to provide you with that information, because without that information, no one here can make kind of the intelligent decision on how to move forward in the next year. When we do find issues like that, we bring in our proprietary analytic tools. Okay? One of the things that we'll be able to do is to sit down with you, and let's say if you have the ability to make a plan change, which I know is sometimes a little bit difficult with school districts, we'll be able to tell you exactly where you're going to get the most impact for your benefit dollar. If you come to us and you say, well, you know what, we've looked at our budget and we really need to save 6% over where it's going to be. Well, I'm not going to come to you and say, well, let's look at bumping up the drug copay by $5. That's not going to get you to where you need to be. We need to come prepared for any renewal meeting with your goal in mind. We know where you are. We've shared that with you. This is where you want to go. Let's have an actual fruitful discussion during that renewal meeting and say, in order to get this delta, here are 6 options that you need to perhaps implement or consider in order to get to that space. We can actually run those in our office using tools from our healthcare analytics team that's out of Providence. I mean, they have the tools for us. We have the tools that will allow us at any point in time to let you know what your IBNR reserve should be. You know, we'll get a report from the carrier that you have. We'll be able to run that report and say, if you shut the doors on this date here, this is the amount of money that you need to have in order to pay the rest of the claims. Okay? One of the key things that Gallagher has, and I'm actually a little excited, you know, Deborah said she was a compliance and used geek. Data and numbers, I mean, just put me in a corner and I'll be happy. You can feed me every once in a while. But the one thing that Gallagher really prides itself on is the vendor relationships we have. You know, it's my understanding that you are on an unbundled approach. So you have someone who does the claims administration, another firm who does the stop loss. Gallagher has national relationships with 8 of the stop loss carriers, and they've given us special contractual terms. They will lock in rates earlier. They will use different types of underwriting techniques. They will actually use the plan document rather than their stop loss contract to pay claims. All of that is basically what we're saying is we will go out and find the best deal. Okay? So if it's an area, let's go back to the balloon. Okay? We have the tools to focus on the 80% of the balloon, which is your claims. You know, should there be a wellness program? Do you have a problem with musculoskeletal claims that are higher than the benchmark? We can tell you that. You know, do you have a bunch of people going out of the network? Is your average length of stay too high? Those are the types of things that we can focus on and help you develop programs or bring in other partners to help kind of control those and lower those costs. That's the 80 to 85%. We also have the relationships in the marketplace to help you control the 15. You know, the fixed dollar amount, the amount that you know that you have to write a check for every single month, whether it's the administration, the stop loss, or the network. Those are things that we have done a fairly consistent job with in the public sector by being able to manage those and negotiate and use our relationships to drive those costs down. So that's what we're doing with the analytics. So here's what it is. Cost management, it's not just coming to you and saying, You want to save 5%, you need to bump up your copay. Okay? That's to me, that's not consulting. I mean, you can use just a broker for that. The thing is we need to tie all of these spokes together. So we're going to use benchmarking. How do you compare to the other, I believe it's over 20? Over 20 school districts that our office handles here in Arizona. How do you compare against those? What are the analytics? Let's look at your vendors, wellness, predictive modeling. But then most importantly, what are some of the district-specific programs that we can focus on? I think Adam mentioned no school district is alike. So where a school district may have a problem with specialty drugs, your issue may be lower back pain, or as I mentioned, average length of stay. Let's focus on what is going to drive your costs down on a consistent basis. And that's what the team is here to do. So, then back to Adam.
Let's focus back on the spoke of innovation, because I think it goes further. We're going to monitor every single claim, incident, and condition-specific program that is affecting the overall cost. So what we've done is we have an innovation lab to look at the 85%. Oftentimes there's captives and there's consortiums and there's pools that you can focus on the 15% with and maybe save a percent or two, but how can we tackle the 85%? That's where the money's at. That's where the utilization is. The employees, they rely on you to help them access health care, to understand it, to make it easy, and that is hard job. That's what we do with the Innovation Lab, though, is to try to take on that challenge on behalf of employers and to look into the future to see how can we make this better. And how can we affect that 85%? Sorry, this is small. And there's really three ways, but I wanted to focus on two that we specifically look on. The first one is to look at plan hygiene. Now, there's money sitting right in front of us every day, right now. There's 2016 claims which are used that we can access until pretty much the end of the year and run an audit on them to figure out if there was any mispayments. Get that money back. It doesn't happen with your TPA unless they do spot audits. They check themselves, but they don't run complete audits. And if they did, they're not running it on what we're running it on. Because we can run it on procedural claims, pre, post-pay, clinical, behavioral, as well as your workers' comp. A lot of times there's duplicate payments that happen if you go into there. So what we could also do, which most people don't talk about, is we can monitor the J-code violations to see how many doctors are trying to submit, maybe sometimes double submit. They'll submit a C-section and they'll submit a natural birth. And a lot of times it gets paid, both of them, for the same person, even though it was for the same person. You would blow your mind what you see from these third-party administrators, because nobody's watching them. You assume they're looking out for your best interest, but they're not. Not technically. A lot of times they have a conflict of interest with the network they're running, because they have to answer to that company. And that company wants their network to get paid a certain way. So a lot of times there's a conflict. So if we asked, we did it. We asked United Healthcare, I'll throw that name out there for the video camera. We asked them, we said, hey, we're worried about HIPAA violations. How many people have access to our data? How many people are auditing our claims? And how many people are looking at our data? They said 0. Nobody was watching the claims. So we asked them, how many do you have? How many edits do you, they call them edits. These are edits, these are things that catch back. How many edits do you run? 500, 3 different vendors, 2 subrogation vendors. 500 on their fully insured block of business. 3 different companies, 2 different subrogation vendors. To monitor their own claims, you get none for the client that we're petitioning on. And it happens all the time. And the most aggressive third-party administrator that we've seen runs 82 edits, I believe. 82. Most are in the 30 range. Most don't do prepay. They'll just catch it on post-pay, and good luck getting your money back. Sometimes. It's easy, sometimes it's hard, depending on what network you use. These are considerations that I want to put in your head, because this is where the money's at. These are things that people don't talk about. These are things that we focus on because we believe that if we can affect the 85% just by catching things that are done incorrectly that nobody's looking at, that we can help save you money there. But let's take it a step further. How can we affect the employee? This healthcare system is beyond ridiculous. And it is difficult in there. My wife looks at me and she's like, I don't even know how you do your job. This stuff is so confusing. I just went to the doctor and I'm getting 4 different letters in the mail. I don't even know if I owe or what. And I keep getting all this. It's confusing. How can we streamline it? That's the challenge we took on, the Innovation Lab. So we created one we know is approximately 15% of just about every employer spend, sometimes more, sometimes less, lower back pain, neck pain, whatever it may be, musculoskeletal. Let's figure out a way. So we created a program. I don't know if these will fit for you all, but I kid you not, some of them will and some of them won't. We're going to find out. Another one was dialysis. Do it direct. You're probably already doing it through your TPA. If you're not, that's something we look at. That's so that we can make sure if there's anybody going through that dialysis that we're going to make sure to take advantage of the lowest cost. Specialty RX management is not going away. And nobody's really tackling it. Not your PBM, I guarantee you that. I guarantee you your PBM is telling you that they're doing a phenomenal job, but they are not. They do not have any interest in making sure that you save money. Because they get paid, kind of like that guy I was talking about at the beginning of when we started the presentation today, that got that $100,000 and he wanted it off the books. They do the same thing. The more scripts that are written, the more money they make. I don't care how transparent they say they are. They're making money. I would invite you to check your denial rate on any specialty drugs and to see what that percentage is. And I bet you it's going to be close to 0 or 1%. It's rare. They don't deny them. There's caseloads and studies of why certain drugs, there's an alternative therapy that do not get taken into consideration by PBMs. Of course, the drug company is going to do whatever they can to get those drugs written, and they cost a ton of money, and they're not going away. There's about 118 drugs we probably focus on specifically initially with your claims that we tackle first. And then we run them through and take them outside of the system, run it through and go direct. Take it outside of your medical, which half the time, injectable infusions, those are all done under your medical claims. You don't even see them. They won't even give you reporting on that most of the time. So we have to take those out completely and run them through. And then we'll tackle the big pharma, and we'll say this employee has a $50,000 deductible because we're running it outside. And they will give us a $50,000 coupon, believe me, to pay for that deductible so that employee's whole. And we'll take it on your behalf. It really comes down to monitoring and plan document, right? So there's things that we can do, and that's kind of back to the plan hygiene. We'd oversee all of this to make sure the applicability. Whatever it is that somebody's abusing your plan with, we're going to find it and we're going to fix it. A lot of times it has to do with radiology, secondary surgery, pathology, things of that nature, right? You go into the doctor and then the anesthesiologist comes in and he's out of network, and then you get this whole confusion with the employee. We're going to monitor and fix all the loopholes on the backside of your plan document to make sure when your TPA is processing your claims or your stop loss vendor, make sure everything ties, but that we're going to cut out all the crap, right? All the tricks, take it all out. And we're going to fix the RX side, take it out of the medical, the specialty. It is abused. I would bet that if you thought your specialty drugs was this number, that it is multiplied by 2, because most of that you don't even see is in the medical. 50% here, 50% here. It's a lot of money. I don't know what your situation is, but it's a lot of money for all employers. It's representing about 20% right now of cost. It was 10% when I started. I started my career as an underwriter. It's at 20% now, on average. And they're creating 9 new drugs every year, and they're expected, there's 118 orphan drugs that people don't even see. These drugs get through fast track through FDA 1 year. Boom, they're on your plan, they're $1 million. Just like that. You don't even know it's some rare condition that you've never heard of. It's going to fix one person. It's not even going to cure the person. I'm not going to get into ethics right now. I'm just talking about drug costs. But that will prolong life and it will be $1 million. And ethically, it is the correct thing to do. But it's hard. How do we control that? How do we control this cost? That's what we intend to do. That's our goal. John, myself, entire team, our entire goal is to watch out for every penny you spend. Watch out for your employees. Make sure you're not taking on that 7% extra burden for some, for somebody's greed. We're going to find it. So we're going to look out for everybody's best interest. And then we intend to educate the employees. Through these programs, we simplify it, whatever one may apply. We make it free to the employee. We help them with a concierge, a counselor, to understand their condition and help walk them through the system the right way to get the highest quality care at the lowest possible cost. Make it convenient for them, make sure they understand it, educate them through marketing, simplify the benefit administration, tie everything together. Whether your wellness, your clinic, your wellness center, all of it. It is all critical. We take inventory and we build it to work like the top. Take that balloon, fill it up, right, John? Thank you all very much for the opportunity to meet today. We're excited. I'm excited specifically because you're on Bundle, and that's like my favorite, like my dream school district right now. But I think we fit. There's a fit. I'm confident that you will find no better partner in this endeavor than Gallagher and the team that we have brought here today. And thank you all very much for your consideration. I brought the presentation and best and final proposal over here. We distribute it. But for that, is there any question I can answer for you or my team?
Yeah, thank you for your comments on the ethics. It's always been a very important focus with me, and thank you for your service to our country too. My only concern with Gallagher is it's so darn big. Are we going to be some little cog that gets sloughed off to one side and basically ignored or disregarded because of the fact we're not a very big EBT?
No. No, it's a very flat organization. We work locally. There's not a hierarchy. We're not mandated. We've been in this market for 25 years, and we run the same way. We were acquired about a year ago by Gallagher, and all it did was make us better. You're looking at the same set of people that were in a small 15-man office running with 25 different school districts. That's our area of expertise. Gallagher appreciated that, did not have a footprint in Arizona, purchased our organization, and allow us to do our job just the same way, with the same high touch, the same feel. And I'm be confident that any of the references that we have provided will attest to that. By no means would your size be, you will not get lost in the fray, particularly since you're self-funded, which makes it, I would hunt you down. You see too much of me.
Thank you.
You will not, to answer your question directly, no, not at all.
Thank you very much.
I understand the concern and it's very common, and I just want to make sure you understand it's very flat. We run the same way as when we were 15 lives as we are now at 24,000 lives here in Arizona.
A similar question that what Sam had was, John had mentioned one person would be assigned to us, and I just was curious as what's the backup to that person?
Oh, sure. That one person is either going to be me or a person on my team, and the backup is I am heavily involved in all of the underwriting and strategic direction for the self-funded accounts on my team. We have monthly meetings where we kind of sit down and review the utilization of the things that are going out and bouncing ideas off of my team of 4. Actually, it's 7 in the entire unit.
Okay.
Different viewpoints, and that's just going to make it better as well.
Okay, thanks.
To add to that, it's the depth. We were a 15-man office here before, where I was Bugs Bunny's on first, Bugs Bunny on second, Bugs Bunny on third. And now I've got a team behind me to help me do better for you. It is deep. It's like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant over there.
I have some questions. So you've got 22 districts that you put in your presentation. Thank you for doing that, and also thank you for your service. I'm a 33-year military brat. I'm proud to say it. How do you prepare when you're transitioning consultants? When you're trying to get another school district as a customer, and they already have a consultant. What's that transition look like? And
I'd like to hand, if it's all right, to hand out the time, the plan that we put together.
Yeah.
That was similar in the request for proposal, but I just expanded on it a bit.
Okay, I thought I had seen that. So
yeah, that's a big decision to make. Like, just having, we recognize that it's like getting a new computer. It's got all these bells and whistles, and then like you go to work on it, and it's just not doing. We want to make that new computer work smoothly from day one, and that's why these timelines. This wasn't just something that I created for the best of file or for the proposal. It was, this is what we do. This is we live and die by our timelines to keep us on task on your behalf, and quite frankly to keep you all on task too, so that we're all on task to get to the finish line, whatever it may be. So what we did is, it's a pretty simplified process. So if you awarded 1/1/2018, which is I believe, we would work for free for 2 months, maybe 3, whenever the award date is. And we have no problem doing that. Because we want to have as much seamless transition as possible. All we would need is a letter of authorization from the current vendors, which is noted in there. Obviously we'll have to sign the contracts and agreements, but at that point we're doing a lot of the work on the back end, building out. John and his team are going to be building all the reporting. We're going to be putting out, cataloging all the information, getting over to Deborah and her team. They're going to be doing all of the compliance reviews. We're going to do all of the work in those 2.5 months that we're not technically your consultant. And by the time we hit the ground running in early January, when the clock starts, we'll have done all of our analysis. We'll be ready to run. We'll have recommendations, and then we'll sit with you as soon as probably prefer to do it sooner, but just I didn't want to make any assumptions. And we would go through the discovery planning session. We would figure out exactly where everything stands. And we've done enough research at that point to have a feel for what's going on, but we want to hear from you. What is going on? I think the one critical piece that we would certainly lean on a direct work relationship with, if we were fortunate enough to be awarded, would be to take over the Health and Wellness Center. Now that's a process, right? So we need to learn from your current consultant exactly what's going on. We're not going to make light of it that we're just going to come in and take over. Because I don't, as a liaison working with the payments and the different parties involved, and then of course looking at them on your behalf as far as everything's being paid correctly, we want to make sure we really understand what's going on. And I'm confident if we're fortunate to be awarded, that your current consultant will work with us in that capacity and help us to understand it. If not, I'm confident that I can work with your Health and Wellness Center, other parties, and figure it out. But I have 2.5 months to do that, hopefully, and that's what I would use that time for.
And do you have other customers that have on-site, near-site clinics in place that you're working with?
Not in Arizona.
Not in Arizona.
Nationally, of course, we do. A lot of experience personally in many aspects of my career, but currently, no, I do not.
Okay. And then on your premium, or your fee, it's $94.8, I think, for the all-inclusive, and then you have these little add-on caveat kind of things. Can you explain that just a little bit as far as your?
Absolutely. I would invite you to look at the best and final because we kind of simplified it.
Okay.
Brought it down to a 2 level. And with school districts specifically, it's important. My preference, if I had my wish, one of 3 wishes, would be to work with you so that we don't have to nickel and dime. I don't have to nickel and dime you. I can just we could do it. That's why I put together the premium. Don't think about it. If we need it, we're going to get it. Kind of attitude. Let's get it done. Approach. That approach can be offset by any commissions that you have, or you can just pay as a fee. Whatever you want to do. It's your call. It could be the worksite products, like if you bring in a third party to come in and do the enrollment, or if we bring our enrollment team, whatever works best. We can use other commissions to offset it. the goal is, regardless of how we are paid, that is the bottom line number, and we want to do whatever it takes to get the job done.
But that all-inclusive price, excuse me, I'm sorry to
Oh, sure.
interrupt you. That included your Benefits Connect and the
Yeah.
app and the, okay.
Yeah, it includes everything that we've discussed. If we want to break up in pieces because of budgeting reasons, we can always certainly, again, I don't know where you're at, so I'm going off of just kind of a feel, but we broke it down to the nutshell of the consulting and your needs, and then itemized the line item, the information from there. The goal is just to create a price structure and a service structure that works best for you all. Even if it goes beyond this, we'd be happy to do that, take anything into consideration.
And then on your claims analysis, you do 3% of all claims daily, is that what I understand?
Through the programs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a standard that you want to run. Your TPA should be doing that now.
Okay.
And if they're not, then they're going to once we start.
Okay. And why did you say that you love working with unbundled plans?
Because you are risk takers. You see the opportunities in not being in that tight, cool, secure, because those opportunities exist. It tells me a lot. I really enjoy working in that space because there is so much you can do once you take apart. Once they're all bundled, there's a lot of little profit centers tucked in between each one. It looks fancy, it looks nice, it makes it sound like. But those that actually take the opportunity to unbundle, take away all the little profit layers, and they take advantage of the best opportunities out there for whatever situation you may be. And I love helping my clients take advantage of those opportunities.
And then I think I saw it in here, but the rate would be guaranteed for 3 years, is that what? And then renewable annually?
Yes.
After that point? Any other additional questions?
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to kind of keep on schedule as best we can. So we'll start your time at 5:15. We have it set up for a 45-minute presentation. Give us about 15 minutes to answer any questions at the end from your group. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Aaron Collins, and we're going to do this from our side a little bit differently. We're going to be very respectful of your time. We've actually run through the thing a number of times to make sure that we do that. We leave plenty of time. We actually have a little extra time for questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off. I'm not going to introduce our team yet. What I want to do to begin the presentation is actually talk about the Lake Havasu City Trust specifically, but also why employers overall create these self-funded benefit trusts. I think it's important to set the foundation. When this trust was set up, when any trust is set up, employers do it for a specific number of reasons. And so the question becomes, why would you move from insurance, which you did a long time ago, why would you go self-funded? And you do it for a handful of reasons. Obviously, recruitment and retention. Insurance is expensive. You have to compete with your benefits amongst other districts, amongst the city, amongst other employers in the area. So getting that key staff is big. You get benefit design flexibility. Basically, if you're willing to pay for it, you can put it in. Like, for example, we know you guys have acupuncture benefits. You know, you can do those things that are important to you better in a self-funded model than you can conventional. Series of financial considerations. You hold the reserves. In days when there's actually interest to be earned, you can earn interest. A big one with self-funding is to reduce the up and down cycles. Because if you notice when you buy insurance, you file a claim, premiums go up, they never quite seem to come down. Whereas if you're self-funded, you can kind of smooth out some of those cycles. Reduce the overhead, basically you can operate on fewer ones. And a big one, particularly in the last 15 years, is instead of being a check-writing company, you can focus on wellness and health promotion. So just instead of paying a claim when people get sick, you can actually do things like you've done with a clinic. Employers do it in a variety of ways. But these are the reasons why you self-fund. But really, what it boils down to is control. You take the control from the insurance company and you bring it back to the employer or the trust. But that's only where it starts. Okay, when you move into self-funding,
if you're going to successfully do it, you can't just take the thing. You have to replace those structures with those things that support you. I'm going to tee this up by telling you what I'm going to say right now is boring until it's not. Okay? Number one is legal compliance. State level, you got the statute, that's at 15 ARS 15382, that's the enabling legislation. Open meeting law, because there's a public entity, you got your own budgetary considerations. The Fed, just say the alphabet soup. Okay, but they're all critical. You got to comply. So you got legal compliance. Financial starts to get a little more complex. Structural rate adequacy is a fancy way of saying you've got to have your funding set up to actually sustain the trust. Period. You can't just pick a number. You got to have it financially solvent. Internal financial controls, and I will tell you, we read through we pillaged the website looking for information on the benefit design, on the issues that are done. We looked at the audit, so we've seen the issues on the accounts payable, on the bank reconciliations, that kind of thing. Boring until it's not. City of Kingman had inadequate controls on a closed trust at a $1.3 million loss. Okay? You got to have the controls in place. From a budgeting perspective, you have the IBNR or IBNP, the incurred not paid liabilities. You got the GASB liabilities. You have about an $11 million liability for the retirees. All that stuff has to be set up. And then the monitoring systems. Okay, so how do you actually monitor it, particularly for you as fiduciaries? The trustee title is basically another word for fiduciary. So we put up monthly reporting. I'll get into these in our proposal. We'll actually show them to you. Quarterly on-site reviews, really in-depth annual reviews, looking under the hood. How's the thing operating? And then ad hoc stuff, because life happens. Things always go. Okay? Next up is you as trustees, your fiduciaries. So all these things are more than words. You have to be knowledgeable. What is the statute? What's your authority? What's your obligation? How do you interact with the district? Educated as to what the trust does. Informed of its operations and the changes. That audit should not have been a surprise. Okay? The GASB liability should not be. You should be involved in that because legally you have specific responsibilities. And then prepared, which basically means come to the meeting as a city council member, as a board of education member. You have to be prepared and actually read this stuff. And then here's where the rubber really hits the road. The vendors, including us. The basics of control here involve a written contract that specifies the scope of services for every vendor. What is it they're going to do? And then how are they going to be paid? It's got to be in the contract. It's got to be transparent. It's got to be measurable. Okay? And the reason I say that so importantly is no one can serve two masters. Okay, so you can't get the money from you for a fee and then have money coming out the back end. And we believe as a firm you can never be commission-based because there's an inherent conflict in a commission. I know from the thing, the current proposals or the current compensation is like 1-point-something%. What that does is put a vendor like us in a position where your cost increasing benefits us. We believe that's an inherent conflict. That's why we're a flat fee. Okay? So in sum, if you're going to be successful, all this boring stuff, but in particular, that vendor interest has to be aligned with trust. You can't have competing interests. I formed my company 25 years ago here in Mahoney County, and those were the principles that we were founded on, and they're the ones that we operate on today. In 25 years, we have grown to be the single largest provider in our niche in the state of Arizona. I can proudly tell you we have 45 clients today. We've lost 2 in 25 years. Every other client's been with us from the beginning. And I say that as somebody who literally started on the kitchen table with my kids with the associates. And they talk about being 9 years old and going, Aaron Collins Associates says, Jessica, how may I help you? And taking notes and whatnot. And now we're 12 full-time employees in 2 offices. And number 1 in our niche. The core principles. We're empowering trustees, transparency, and making sure that our interest and the interest of every vendor that we supervise is aligned with the success of the trust. Sounds like a commercial. For us, it's a mission statement. When you look at our people, and the people here, some of whom are on the phone, I have to do one qualifier on here. Jamie Schulberg is absent today. She was actually at the concert last night in Las Vegas with family. Fortunately, no one's injured. They made it back. They got back late today. But obviously, she got to take a bench day
take a rest and kind of recover. So I'm going to cover her stuff today. When you look at our background as a firm, we started in the public sector. My background is a master's in public administration. I will tell you it's from the single best university in the known galaxy, the University of Idaho at Moscow. But 30 years all combined in the public sector. I actually started my career in Mojave County back in 1984. I've worked in city, county, and community college settings. I've consulted at public sector organizations for almost 30 years. Okay. Jamie Schulenberg is actually from Havasu. She was formerly, spent 13 years at the city of Lake Havasu, ending as the HR and risk manager, ran all of their self-funded programs. And she came to work for us almost 10 years ago. Elena Lacey, her group benefits specialist at Kingman Kid, worked for us for 7 years, only does public sector, period. On the phone is Mike Shunning. This is a clarification we'll get into later because we added actuarial services. We'll see in our best and final. Mike's been an actuary for over 35 years. Was the actuary who set up the Lake Havasu City Trust. Did the Northern Arizona Employee Benefit Trust, which is Bullhead, Havasu, and Kingman. Worked on City of Parker, Bullhead City, and La Paz County, in addition to statewide. And the reason I point that out is I want all of you to understand our pitch is not that we're the local kids. Our pitch is that we know the market because we've been in it for that long, and we live here, so we understand what healthcare delivery is like in rural Arizona. With me also is Marcus Ambrosi. Marcus is with Smart Ben. He'll be talking about the technology later on when we get to that. And on the phone,
Holly Snyder, who's our solutions engineer, responsible for some of the detailed questions if you have any with regards to the technology.
And we hope to get some time to walk through all of that too in some detail and give you some questions. We think it's really important that you understand how that technology integrates with benefits delivery. They're not independent, standalone smokestacks. They're integrated in how you deliver benefits for your employees. So our experience is highly localized, but also highly statewide. Okay, so we know how those markets are. And I emphasize too at the bottom that bullet point is we do, because we're small, because we're local, we literally strive to become an extension of your staff. And I think the fact that we have kept all of those clients for that many years pretty much reflects what that is. I hope you have called and asked them for our references. Okay, one of the issues that came up in the evaluation of our proposal is that we did not include legal and we didn't include actuarial services. The actuarial was my misreading of the response to one of the inquiries. We did pose the question, how is that being provided? I interpreted the answer to say that whoever's provided to be the consultant or selected to be a consultant will do an RFP. So we opted not to do it. When we watched the videotape, I realized, and a smack in the forehead, well, I could have a V8, and we bought Mike in. We have actually used Mike for over 20 years. So we brought his firm in to do that. The legal side we'll never do. The reason we will never bring a quote in under our aegis on the legal side is they will have to give a qualified opinion that says, we're not your attorney, we can't give you legal advice. And if you look at this organization chart, the law firm that we use actually locally, this is one of our other clients, the line does not pass through us. It cannot. That attorney has to be your trust attorney, your attorney, and the same with the auditor, because they also supervise what we do to make sure we're not making off with your money for providing you with bad advice. Okay? So we think, again, I would tell you boring as an organization chart, but the significance of that line is we recognize they don't report to us, they report to you. And our clients, I think one of the things we noted was size differential. I just wanted you to know we have a range of clients. They're not all schools, I'll come back to that. But they range from a small, about 25, the Golden Valley Fire District, up to 2,650. So these are some of the local ones: Bullhead, Havasu, Kingman, Fort Mojave Indian Tribe, Mojave County, Kingman Academy of Learning, a charter school, Fire District, Parker, and Paz County. Okay? And then statewide, we have all of these. Every one of those entities is different. They all had different ways to get there, but they all face the same issue you guys that addressed, or similar ones. How do you finance benefits in an increasingly complex environment? Now we have much more federal involvement than we ever had. We have uncertainty. The costs continue to escalate. The mandates escalate. It used to offer to teachers and IT people, school nurses, bus drivers. Okay? For them, it's cops, engineers, plan checks, you name it. their issues are the same. Recruit and retain, benefit design, flexibility, financial consideration, and control. And every one of them has been successful. Okay, to go into our proposal a little bit, it's essentially in two parts. The first one is an end-to-end review, and it goes through the trust, starts with the trust finances and goes to management control, and that comes back to that vendor alignment issue. And also, where are you? Okay, so we literally will go back and run your claims experience back probably for about 3 years and see what's available. We're familiar with Gilsmark because we work with them, several accounts around the state. How are your rates? Rate adequacy. You saw in the audits you had a year of about $1.7 million loss. It looks like last year, depending what you do with the rates, I'm guessing, also unless you really jacked up the rates, probably $1.3 million or $1.5 million loss again, could be eyeballing it. So we'll look through that. Where's the IBNR? Fixed versus variable cost ratios. How much of every dollar that comes in is going to pay claims versus overhead? Okay. Those financial controls. We saw again in the audit the issue on accounts payable and on bank recs. Elena's actually bought some things. We'll show you. We do it for our clients now. A point of pride for my firm. We actually operate 5 multi-employers around the trust, around the state, that are regulated by the Arizona Department of Insurance. We are examined every 5 years on each one. We're in our 12th examination process now. In the 25 years our company's existed, we've never had a material issue, financial or management, on any employee. We'll give you any copy you want. We've been audited 60 times. 60 times. We've never had a material audit issue. You're the most boring company you will ever find, and that's why I'm saying. Because when it gets exciting, your lives get exciting. And I know that sounds salesy. If your phone's ringing, if the media's sitting in this room because you're upside down financially, something failed. Our job, our mission is to keep that from happening. So we'll look at the management controls on the contracts. I can't stress enough, they've got to be in your name. Every contract has to come to you. Because if it's not, it leaves you open to have money to lead out the back door. And big money. I'm not saying that's happened today, I don't know. But you want to avoid it. And you do it by having the contract held in your name. We'll go through how they were procured, the cost, the terms of renewal, all that. And then we'll look at the clinic. The clinic was interesting to us because Mike Shunning was on the phone, and our company and the council for the city of Lake Havasu were approached to have the city join with the school district when the trust was formed. We looked at it, and we got together, we looked at it, we asked questions, and in 2010 we issued a report to the city. We recommended not doing it because what we saw indicated to us or suggested to us it would actually be a cost driver, not a cost saver. That may not be the case today, we don't know. But it gives us a history of what the original goals were that may have predated many of you, and will give us a yardstick to see how it actually has performed against its original projections. Okay? I will tell you, measuring a trust's effectiveness or a clinic's effectiveness is tricky. Mike's firm has been involved with it. It's really not just dollars and cents because you're trying to measure what didn't happen, but is it hitting the goals you have? Is it doing chronic disease management for diabetes? We saw the obesity things. What's happening with the follow-up on the cardiac, things like the high blood pressure that were in the reports? What's it really doing? And sometimes you make a subjective assessment. Sometimes it's easy. Okay? So we'll look at the clinic. We'll look back at the agendas. And we bring all that back into a single document. If you look in our proposal, there's a document in here called a sample RMP, risk management plan. Think of it as a business plan. We do them for our clients every year. And what it is basically what's the status of the trust, why was it formed, what were the projects it undertook, what was the success rate or failure rate in achieving those, and what are the projects going to be for next year. Quick business plan, about 9 pages. I think that's critical for you, whoever you select, however you get there, because I think as an institution you probably need to go back to your foundation, identify where you are, because I don't know how you would chart a course forward unless you know where you stand today. Okay. And you'll see later on in our thing, we're actually saying we'll come in and do this starting now on the day of your formal award, and we'll charge $1 to get it done. We believe it needs to be done before December 31st. So we're targeting in our timeline having it done by the week of December 5th. We'll talk some more about that later. So you get into a single document. The ongoing consulting, we looked at your scope of services, we looked at ours, frankly you can blend them.
because we are a flat fee. We believe ours is more comprehensive. If you're more comfortable with yours, roll it in, we'll come up. We'll literally add them both together. We'll cross out the stuff that is duplicative and do it. The key of that contract is having that scope as broad as you can get it, as a vendor is willing to do, and making sure that we're compensated only with what we say, our fee. Okay, and this one is, these are the rough dates for, we somehow, I think it might have been in the meeting minutes, we picked up, you were thinking a formal meeting on October 13th, I didn't see one on the site. I know there's an executive session today. This one on the website is posted as a work session, so I didn't see where you could take action, but, so we were thinking October 13th, you would formalize the award, we'd be on site on the 16th, start gathering our documents.
Litigation, so I guess we can talk about anything, huh?
I'll be videotaped, everybody will see it, so that's good. What would you like to do? You want to go through each one, or how would you like to do that?
We wanted, kind of like we did the first time, we wanted to review, kind of look at strengths and weaknesses, go firm by firm, and then see where we lie. If we differ from the original proposals.
So Ricky, this one first?
I'd like to ask Marcia her opinion.
Well, I'll tell you, I try very hard not to form an opinion before I go in, but I've read these things 37 times, and I thought I knew what I was going to decide, and I got my mind changed today. I was very impressed with CBIZ. A couple of things that I don't know that they described it in as great of detail that would have, satisfied my questions, but in the original RFP. But because they have such an extensive experience in multiple areas, including the on-site and the auditing and all those parts, I think they were very strong. I would recommend the enhanced services because I think that's compared to where we are right now. We're at 88,383 for our consultant, and although we would still need an attorney for some things, it's at 25,000. But I think there may be some other areas where we would save on actuarial and maybe in the pharma part. I'm not sure, but to have that depth of, a physician, a doctorate in pharmacy, a registered dietitian, diabetes educator, an attorney and actuary, for me, that was really, really strong. And I think I flipped my Arthur Gallagher to 2, my CBIZ to 1. And Aaron, as much as I like this company and I know that they're extremely good at what they do, having somebody with a very, very strong background in clinical consulting, I think for me was really strong, because we're not, I just don't think that we're still getting what we need out of that clinic. So that would be my choice, would be CBIZ and the enhanced services, and start right away. Well, they all said they'd start for free, so that was good. That was we'll pay them $1, because that legally we have to do that, but I thought that was strong. What did you think?
I like CBIZ myself too, and then I like Aaron Collins second. Gallagher, I agree with Sam. I think they're very, very big, and maybe it was just me. I just got the feeling that it was almost like condescending to me, and it was like they were pros from Dover and we're to Hicks. They can show us how to do it right. I don't know, but regardless, I just think the size of their company does concern me, and I think that the other two are much more suited to work with us.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like CBIZ first, and then Aaron Collins would be my second choice. When we look out.
My turn. CBIZ seemed to be evasive in a couple of questions and a couple areas, a couple situations they had. To me, they just gave me a creepy feeling. I like Gallagher, but again, the issue was that they're huge and we're just a drop in the ocean where it's all over and done with. I would be comfortable with Gallagher or ECA, and part of my choice going to number 1 for ECA is the fact that I'm comfortable with them. I've worked for them for 8 years, and I saw them take the trust that was borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and to the point where the trust has given the county supervisors in this past calendar year 2 $1 million tax vacations. These guys, I like to tell you about Aaron and his crew, and when they come in for their quarterly meeting, it's a huge crew. I mean, it is 15, 18 people. You know, they have all the suppliers and the providers and suppliers and vendors and everything. And they'll sit there and arm wrestle with these people. And the fact that they've basically, in an 8-year period that I've been on there, turned that trust around to where it's extremely comfortable. And the actuaries actually told us last week when I was meeting with them that we had too much money in our fund. So my choice would be, I mean, if I had to enumerate the choice, it would be ECA and then Gallagher. Gallagher, when they first started out, for some reason, there was a question asked, and if they had dealt with anyone that had these clinics.
The on-site clinics.
And they said no. And so that really sort of changed my mind because, you know, if we're going to make a transition, then I think we ought to have people who are sort of familiar with this type of stuff. And so I narrowed mine down to CBiz and ECA. I did like ECA from the standpoint that they really want to find out what is the purpose and is it cost effective and the wellness clinic and all that type of thing. But I could go either way on them. I like CBiz and ECA. And to their credit, ECA is really focused on the wellness. Mm-hmm. They've got, I think, 3 or 4 people involved, maybe more, in their wellness program, and everybody up in Mojave County seems to love their wellness program. It's well utilized.
Yeah, I remember when they started that, or when I experienced it, because I competed against them probably 12 years ago. Yeah. And they were very strong. They were very strong too. They always have. You know, they're real good at making IGAs too, where I think you alluded to that, where if you have two small groups or two small groups of people, I guess is the way it is, he could form a small partnership, say between like Havasu City and the trust here for, say, the wellness, or I forget what context Aaron said when he was talking about it. I just wasn't comfortable at all with CBiz. And I think now that you reminded me of the no clinic or no wellness, no on-site clinic for Gallagher, I had forgotten that, so I probably have to change my vote.
That was the thing that stood out most for me as I listened to him. And when he said that, I just thought, this could be a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed, or the biggest eye-opener, I guess, as each group presented, is that we kind of fall into that category of needing what was considered enhanced services on there. With each of the presentations, it felt like they thought there was a piece missing that we needed to analyze and that we needed to look at. And I know there's a fee structure with those, but I would be much more apt the first year we go in with a company to make sure that we utilize those services to see if there's things that we need to manage better or more correctly. When I first looked at CBiz's proposal today as best and final, and I kind of saw that $17,000 just for clinic consulting, but as they looked into that, I think they identified that as a need, and we've identified that as a need, and that should be something that they're really willing to put some time into and look at. I did notice I was leaning a little bit more on the CBiz side with their staffing, and I saw actuarially much less expensive because they have that on staff as opposed to contracting that out. So I found that a little bit higher. But one thing, if you saw where my evaluations were, my viewpoint was definitely changed with the ECA or Collins group because of their budgeting sheets and how they break things down and make it real clear as to what type of premiums are needed. One thing that I've noticed over the course of time is we wait to see what the district is willing to fund us to make our recommendation on what that was, and it kind of geared this underfunding notion the past 10 years, and I think it's really straightforward. This is what needs to be budgeted.
Nice to know.
And the timeline for that was always appropriate then also for the other end to deal with that, because I identified that as an area of concern. So I kind of thought, well, CBIZ, I thought their staffing was much better, and maybe their in-depth analysis I was a little bit more comfortable with as far as their expertise. I did find the budgeting side of Collins better. I was just not as pleased with the Gallagher proposal as I was when it was on paper.
Yeah, me too. They're on paper, they're a much stronger company.
Because I did feel that
22 school districts.
it looked personalized on paper, but when they came to speak to us, it wasn't the extensive research that the other two had done and read through minutes and really looked at what our issues are.
Right.
Still looking at it, I do put CBIZ a little bit higher than Collins just because of their expertise and their actuarial services being on staff. But I'm much more comfortable with either of those choices now, hearing the presentations that came out.
Well, I have to say that program they showed you up there, if the trust should go that way, you're going to fall in love with that thing. Because when it comes to the budgeting portion of it, you just throw any kind of ideas you want, and they do it and push enter. The whole thing readjusts itself and what the premiums are. And I'm sure the other two providers also have something on a similar basis. You know, they're not going to sit there with a calculator and go over 500 lines. But
no.
And as I said, with me, my preference is the fact that I'm very comfortable with the job they've done for the past 7.5 years.
Did CBIZ have sample financials?
Yeah. On their reporting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think for me the biggest thing, and maybe it doesn't make so much difference that you have, you've worked with 100 on-site clinics or just, 6 or 10 or whatever, but to have experience in that, but also to be able to recognize and work with them to give us, real numbers and real outcomes. That's. I mean, you guys all know that that's been a frustration. So whichever, as long as we have someone, whether it's ECA or CBIZ, on, doing that, I don't think either one would be afraid to tell us, the rights and the wrongs and the.
Well, I don't know what CBIZ would do, but Parent College and Associates would tell you, you're dead wrong, and you're in trouble if you do that.
Yeah.
He doesn't, everybody in that crew, and I worked with Jamie when I was on city council here.
Yeah.
She's a smart lady. We butted heads a lot, but I mean, she's a smart lady. So.
Someone butted heads with you? Yeah. Huh. What a surprise.
Yeah.
I think she won about it at the time.
This is a very similar budget sheet when you do look at it, where they have the expected, did we need it? What's that per member, per month cost?
Yeah.
Were you under or over percent change?
And the one that Aaron uses, I think, is probably, he's refined that over the years. It's probably the only one that I've seen that you could do, okay, here's our budget and here we're going to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the damnedest thing you ever saw. They put that thing up on the screen and they go line by line on it.
A lot of scary nights.
They just, we threw all kinds of crazy ideas. If you want to kick the premiums up 5 cents, they'll do it and it comes out and tells you what your budget and what the premiums and everything is. As I say, the other two probably have something similar, but my opinion is just colored by comfort, a certain comfort level with that.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I mean, I've been here 30 years, and when I sold insurance and competed against self-funding, Aaron was always in the same arena I was in. So they have a honorable organization, and he's, expanded.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm not real comfortable with the clinic concept. So, at least with the figures, they're limited. What have I got, 28 days or 30 days on this trust? And the numbers we saw the other day from them, and I don't know this and I don't know that, and and you know, and the numbers that we paid them were 300,000 more than the number that they agreed as a maximum. So I don't know.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ECA as our new consultant.
I'll second it.
Al Christensen,
No.
Sam Scarmato,
Yes.
Pat Rooney,
Yes.
Marcia Cox,
Yes.
Carrie Thompson.
No.
So that's 3 ayes and 2.
And then if we look at, well, for them, I guess the extra services will come up later on as far as how we look at those. Yeah. So no further action will be needed then. As far as timelines and things, Mr. Murray, how would we go from here, from your office?
I will contact the three and inform them of the decision. And then at that point, we will let Mr. Collins and his team kind of engage with us as well, and we will begin the process of transition.
And I think once that contract is signed, then we want to make sure that he gets an agent of record letter for all of our vendors so that he can start working on that right away. And then,
Now, were those dates correct that I have?
Now, is there a recommendation? Is the recommendations that go to the board?
No.
For approval?
No, this is us.
Information.
Yeah.
something that, I mean, and I guess I want to kind of throw it out there is, if Aaron is willing to come in and, you know, start this right away and do the evaluation and whatnot, then and he's going to do that until January for $1, do we want to issue a 30-day notice of termination to our current broker as of November 3rd instead of waiting until January?
I would just make sure that what he's doing for $1 would take over everything that we need to get done. Because my idea was they wanted that time to really research us and look at it and look it over.
Yeah.
And I would feel more comfortable if we stuck to that, so give them time to implement and stick to that July 1st. Was that kind of?
I think his proposal was a January takeover.
Yeah.
So
I think
start the new calendar year. I don't blame him either. There's a lot of shifting sand he's got to work through.
Well, and that was kind of the whole idea of having the January 1 effective date, was so that it wouldn't be so close to when we would have to start looking at renewals and open enrollment and things like that, that it wouldn't be a rush for anybody, including us. So,
Now, as a board, I would recommend that you make sure that the current consultant is fulfilling his contract through that period of time as well.
December 31st.
but then I think it is a minimum of 30 days on the term. So, would you recommend that we send something out at any time between now and?
I would say you hit your numbers right on the head as a point of business. I would say that, right around the end of November, you have that letter go out and put a certified return receipt on it and go.
Certainly prior to the end of November, that's for sure.
Well, he already knows that you're talking about Dave.
Yep, he was in the.
He
But
knows-
I mean, he already knows that he wasn't.
He just has to get
in the-
termination.
Right.
He still needs.
You got that
he still needs-
No, I understand,
And that would come from
so, yeah, he,
Or from the.
You got the
or from-
impression of that the other day.
sure, no,
He was
but,
toast.
but again, he also, I mean, he's been doing it for long enough that he knows his responsibilities, but yeah, certainly we'll notify him.
Well, and I guess my only part would be, and this is just from a former agent, would be part of his responsibilities as a business associate is to either return to us everything that he has for, that belongs to us, or to verify and certify that he's destroyed it all. And so that we'd have to make sure that that was all.
I think being as he's still on the payroll, he probably ought to work closely with the awardee. And if he's any kind of a businessman, I'm sure he should agree to that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a good sized firm in
Sure,
Phoenix
sure.
he can work with, and that would, maybe that would help
Transition.
some of the questions, yeah, and transitions.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 6:23.
See you for lunch.
Okay, yeah,
Sam's got somewhere to go.
he does, he calls.